Hello, my name is Alicia with Country Mama Musings. Welcome to my 1902 craft room here on my farm, and we're working on our very last block for our heirloom Afghan crochet along. This is block 63, the parallel cables. So grab your supplies and let's get started on our very last block. For block 63, we're going to use our size H crochet hook and whatever color you have determined to be color A. For me, that is white. We're going to start with a slip knot, and placing that on our hook, we are going to chain 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 24, 25, and 26. So here we have our beginning chain for block 63. Let's move on to row 1. For row 1, we're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So not counting the loop that's already on our hook, we're going to count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to place a double crochet right here in the top of that chain, and in each chain across to the end. These 3 that we skipped right here, that's going to count as a faux double crochet. So this is going to count as 1, this is 2. Here is our 3rd double crochet in our chain across. And you're going to want 24 total when you get to the end. I'll meet up with you down here. Here's 22, 23, and don't forget your very last chain right here for 24. So at the end of row 1, we're going to have 24 double crochet. Don't forget, these 3 chains that you skipped right here, they count as a double crochet. So you have 24 in total. Let's move on to row 2. For row 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. We're going to place a single crochet in the top of every stitch across. So starting right here in this very first one right here, place a single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to want 24 single crochets when we reach the end here. I'll meet up with you there. 22, 23, and don't forget, this counts as a double crochet here. So we're just going to go right to the top. Make sure you get 2 loops on your hook when you go through the top of that. And there is 24 single crochets. And that completes row 2. Let's move on to row 3. Hey, are you enjoying putting together all of the beautiful heirloom sampler blocks for our heirloom Afghan crochet along? If so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, check out the playlist that has all of the videos for every block for our crochet along, and be sure to share the video with your friends that like to crochet. Okay, let's get back to our project for this week. For row 3, we're going to chain 3 and turn 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn our work. Now and throughout the rest of this block, this chain 3 at the beginning of these rows, that's going to count as a double crochet, so don't forget that. According to our pattern, we're going to place a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. The next 2, not this first one, because this faux double crochet is connected to your first single crochet right here. So we're going to go to the next stitch over, and we're going to place a double crochet, and we're going to the next one and placing a double crochet. There we go. Now we're going to skip the next single crochet, and we're going to do a front post double crochet around the double crochet that's underneath the next single crochet. I know that sounds like IKEA instructions. Here's the easy way to think of it. Here we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip 4 and we're going to work in number 5 down here. Go down to your prior row and count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to work around the post of this stitch right here, placing a front post double crochet. So yarn over, enter from the front of your work, around the back and out the front again. Grab your yarn and pull it back through. You have 3 loops on your hook. You don't want this to be tight because you don't want your work to squish. So just give it just a tiny little tug. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And there's your first front post double crochet. We're going to go to the very next stitch over this double crochet right here. We're going to place another front post double crochet around this one. So yarn over from the front to the back and out the front again. Yarn over and pull your yarn through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Remember, you don't want them to be overly tight. Now that we've got these 2, we skipped a stitch. 1, 2, 3. We skipped number 4 right here. We're going to go back and we're going to work a front post double crochet around this one right here. So again, making sure that your yarn's not too tight, yarn over and go back. You're going to cross over the top of these 2 and go from the front, behind, and the front with your hook. Grab your yarn and pull it back through around that post. Again, give it a little tug. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So what we've done here for this neat little stitch that we're going to be working on is we're going to have this crossover parallel cable that we're going to work on. And as this block comes together, you're going to see how it forms into a beautiful cable. So we've completed 3 stitches here. That means we've skipped 3 single crochet back here. So we're going to count over those 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip over those. We're going to go to the next single crochet. I'm going to right into that single crochet, do another double crochet. Our cable is done. We're moving across now with 1, 2 double crochet. Now what we did here, we're going to do it again over here. So when we look at this, we can see that we did a front post around this double crochet. We're going to skip 1, skip 2 because we just worked these 2 double crochet right here. We're going to skip the next one because we're going to come back to it later. We're going to go to the one after that. We're going to place a front post double crochet. We're going to the next one, front post double crochet. Remember, we're working down around those double crochet from row 1. So here we have our 2 front post double crochet. We're going to go back to this one that we skipped. Remember, these double crochets are worked in the single crochet here. This double crochet is worked here into the single crochet. We skipped this single crochet in the one below it. We're going to work around the post of this double crochet right here. Yarn over, go over the 2 that you just worked, back to that one you skipped, and do a front post double crochet. Remember to just give it a little bit of wiggle room so your work doesn't fold over or crimp up. And there we've got our 3 front post double crochet right there. It doesn't look like much now, but as our block comes together, these are going to make beautiful cables. Again, we skipped these 3 single crochet. So skip 1, 2, 3. Going to the next single crochet right there, place a double crochet. And when you put your hook into that stitch, make sure you get both the front loop and the back loop on your hook. Completing the first of 2, here's 1 double crochet. Going to the next single crochet, working another double crochet. And just like before, we're going to work our cable down here in row 1. We're going to skip 1 double crochet because that's what this one's kind of attached to, it lines up with. We're going to skip this double crochet and single crochet, that's what that one lines up with. We're going to skip the next one because we're going to come back and catch that on the next cable here. So we're skipping this one. We're going to work a front post double crochet around the next one. There's our front post double crochet there. Here's our next post that we're going to do a front post double crochet around. So there's our 2. We're going back to this one we skipped. We're going to go over the top of these 2 and come back all the way over here, go under that post, and complete a front post double crochet. So it kind of crisscrosses over the front of the 2 that we just did. Just like before, we skipped 3 single crochet. So skip 1, 2, 3. Go into the 4th. On the top right here, this single crochet gets a double crochet. The next single crochet gets a double crochet. And looking back where we worked here, we're going to skip 1, skip 2, skip 3. We're going to place a front post double crochet around the 4th. Double crochet from row 1. So here's 1 front post double crochet. We're going to the next double crochet from row 1 and completing a front post double crochet around that. So there's our 2 front post double crochet. We're going to go back to this one we skipped and work a front post double crochet around that one. There we go. We're coming up here to the end of the row. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, skip 3, and we're going to place a double crochet in the next 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And that is the end of row 3. I'm going to remove my hook and let's take a look at our block here after the 3 rows. You can see the beginning of our cables right here, and we've got spaces in between. Like I said, it doesn't look like much now, but as the block comes together, you're going to see how pretty it is. So we're going to have 4 rows of cables that are going to go up our block this way. So you should have 4 groupings here of the beginning of our cables. Here at the beginning, we have the chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3 double crochet before we get to our grouping. We've got our groupings with double crochets in between, and here at the end, 1, 2, 3 double crochets. As our blocks have worked up in the past, we're looking for that symmetry. You want to make sure everything works out evenly. We're going to move on now to row 4. Placing our yarn back on our hook, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. We're going to place a single crochet in the top of every stitch from row 3. It gets a little tricky because when you work those front post double crochets, sometimes it's hard to find where you want to place your hook for that. So we're going to go through the first couple of cables here so you can see where those go. When we are all done with row 4, we do want 24 single crochet again. So we're going to work right here in this very first stitch, placing a single crochet. There's 1. Here's our next single crochet in the next stitch. These first few are pretty easy to see. 3. Now as we get to where these cables are, it's a little difficult to see. You want to kind of give yourself just a little bit of tilt. And you see that little V right there on the top where you have your front loop and your back loop. Make sure you go through both of those right there. Same for your next stitch. This was a front post and it's just hard to see where that stitch is to make sure that you get 2 loops on your hook. There's a little bit of gap in this one because of where it crosses over. It's not as tight of a stitch. Make sure you go through both the front loop and the back loop on that, completing your single crochet. Single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. Those were those 2 double crochet that were worked in between the cables. We're to our next set of cable, which were our front post double crochets. Make sure you give that work just a little bit of that tilt there so you can see where your front loop and back loops are. Making sure you get both of them on your hook. There's a single crochet. Here's our next single crochet. And again, we got this little bit of gap here. When you tilt your work, you're going to see you can just go right in that gap and get both the front loop and the back loop on there, completing that single crochet. So just work a single crochet in every stitch till you get to the end of the row, and I will meet up with you there. We're here to the end of row 4, and we're still placing our single crochets in every stitch across. We're here to the end, and don't forget, this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So you want to make sure that you go into the top of that chain 3, get 2 loops on your hook there, and finish that last single crochet. That makes number 24. The cables are on the opposite side of your work. So this row 4 is all of your single crochets, and here's your cables on the other side. Our next row, row 5, is going to be yet another row of cables. But don't get ahead of me. I'm going to show you how to do those. So let's move on to row 5. For row 5, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And remember, that counts as a double crochet. It's connected to the single crochet right here. Turn your work. We're not going to work in this very first stitch because that counts as being attached to there. We're going to place a double crochet in each of the next 2 single crochet. So here's 1, and here's 2. So just like before, we're going to have 3 double crochets on each end of this row. Now we're going to work our cable, and this is where it switches things up a little bit. I don't want you to get ahead of me here. We're going to skip the first front post double crochet. That's this one right here. It's right here. We're going to skip this one. Remember, we had one here, we had one here, and then we crossed over those 2. We're going to skip that first one. We're going to work a front post double crochet around the next one, so it gets a little tricky. So yarn over, go into your work and find that double crochet and get your hook around that post. Don't get the one that crisscrosses over. Complete your front post double crochet. The one that crosses over, you're going to do a front post around that one too. Those are our first 2, just like how we did 2 before, and now we cross over for the third. So yarn over and go back to this very first one that we skipped, and go under it and back out the front again. It's tricky. Grab your yarn and pull it back through. Give it a little tug so it's not too tight. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. This is, as it works across, it's going to create this twisting cable like a braid. And again, you're not seeing it yet, but as your block comes together, you'll see it. Now, just like before, we've skipped 3 single crochets in the back, so we're going to count over those. 1, 2, 3. In your next single crochet, place a double crochet, making sure you get both the front loop and the back loop. There's 1. We're going to do it one more time. Here's 2. Now we're coming up to our next cable. We have 1 front post, 2 front posts, and then the post that goes over and crisscrosses. We're going to skip that first one. We're going to find our second one. It's a little tricky to dig in there and find it, but you can do it. There we go, right there. Complete a front post double crochet around that. Now the one that crisscrosses over, we're going to complete a front post double crochet around that stitch. Not through the stitch, around the stitch. Now we're going to go back, and here's that very first front post double crochet right here. We're going to go back and go around that one. And again, it's a little tricky to find where you're going to put that hook. Give it just the slightest little tug. You don't want it to be too loose because you don't want your cables to be sloppy. But there's our 3. As we flip our work forward a little bit, we've got 1, 2, 3 single crochets that we skipped over. Going to the fourth single crochet right here, placing a double crochet in it. Going to the next one, placing a double crochet there. And that just brings us over to our next cable. Again, one front post, two front posts right here, and then the third one crosses over. We're going to skip the first one, yarn over and do a front post, double crochet. It's tricky, I'm telling you. Here we go. A front post double crochet around that stitch. A front post double crochet around that one that crisscrosses over. And then for the last part of our cable, we're going to go back to this very first one right here that we skipped and go underneath it from the front to the back, out the front again, and complete that front post double crochet. Skip one single crochet, skip two single crochet, skip three single crochet. This is what this cable lays on top of. See how that lays on top of those three that we're going to skip? 1, 2, 3. Go to the fourth one right here and place a double crochet. There's one, and the next stitch gets one as well. We're here to our very last cable. Again, we're going to skip the first one. We're going to place a front post, double crochet around the first one, a front post double crochet around the one that twists in front, and then we're going to go back to the one we skipped right down here, and we're going to do a front post double crochet around that one. We're going to skip one, skip two, skip three, and because we started with 3 double crochet, we're going to end with 3 double crochet. So right here in that fourth single crochet is our first double crochet for the end of our row. There's one. In the next one, there's 2, and then in the next one, making sure you get both the front loop and the back loop on there, there is 3. So I'm going to take my hook out here and let's see how things are looking after getting 2 parts of our cables starting to come together. You can start to see where they're starting to twist as we work up, and the more work you put into it, the more these are just going to twist into a pretty little braid for our block. You're going to repeat rows 4 and rows 5. Do those a few more times. I'm going to meet up with you when our block is about halfway done, and we'll look and see how things are shaping up here for block 63. Again, row 4 and row 5. Repeat it. I'm going to say repeat it 3 more times and then we'll meet up. Okay, I've just repeated row 5 again. So we have several rows here of 4 and 5, and you can see how, because I'm a little bit tight with my stitches, it dips down here in the center. But once we get our border on, that's all going to straighten out. So you're going to have these rows of these twisted, braided looking cables that are going to go up the center of your block. You always want to make sure that when you do your single crochets across that you have 24 single crochets, not forgetting to place a single crochet in those beginning chain 3. If you're finding that you've got this little bit of a dip here because of the tightness, the tension of the front post double crochets, it's okay. Once you said, like I said, once you get the border on, that's going to straighten out a little bit. But if you find that your work is starting to taper in a little bit, double check to make sure that your count is correct. You want 24 single crochet. Same with if you're starting to taper out a little bit. Make sure that you haven't accidentally put an extra stitch in there. So this is how our block is going to look. I'm going to go ahead. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 sets now of the twisted cables. I'm going to continue on until my block is approximately 7 inches square, and we'll meet up there. Okay, so I have finished square 63. I apologize. I went ahead and I finished off. I didn't get those last few stitches in there to show you, but I did want to point out that I finished with a single crochet row, make sure you finish with a single crochet row, okay? And the only thing you need to do now is just do your edging, round 1 of your edging and then round 2 of your edging. That's going to straighten all this out, and even if you don't think it's straightened out enough, once you get your Afghan put together, it will straighten out. You can block this if you want to. You don't necessarily have to. But here are your 4 rows of your cables. Very, very pretty. And this finishes out the last square for our Afghan. I know you guys have been waiting a long time to get through. It takes a lot of patience and effort to get 63 squares done, but here they are. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that all my squares have their edging on them. I'm going to do a couple of videos to get everybody caught up on 10 squares at a time, just highlighting them. And then we're going to get together and we're going to put the squares together for our Afghan. So till then, thank you so much for joining me, and take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day. Oh, make sure you put a tag on this and mark this as number 63 so you know what it is when you go to put your Afghan together. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.